The first college fantasy football edition of the Scott Fish Bowl is officially here. That's right, it's the Tadpole Bowl, and we get you set with a scoring and strategy breakdown, plus our favorite CFF targets and fades, all this and more. It's a brand new IBT podcast coming right at you.
I've been going dummy, out of bounds, putting on a clinic. Stick around, carrots in my hardware. KC, caught him in the crosshair. Look at me, been the guy calling Mr. MVP. Keep your ass on the bench by my MPC. Earn my stripes like I fix this league. Your dog's on the turf, my dog's in the street. You can find me somewhere in between. Never a dull moment like a movie scene. About to do the ops like I did this beat. Let them keep talking RG3. Coming to you live. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
All right. And welcome into the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your place for both a refreshing and feel-good take on fantasy football and NFL gambling. We've got a special episode of the program for you as we hit the collegiate streets to preview the first ever Scott Fish Bowl Tadpole Bowl. I'm your host, Seth Wilcock, and while I love summertime, I cannot wait until my fall Saturdays are spent boozing with my friends and family, taking in the college football slate. And to help us break down this tournament is our college football fantasy and betting expert here at IBT, coming all the way from across the pond in the UK. It's Phil Cartledge. Phil, great to be with you today. How are you as this epic college fantasy football tournament prepares to get underway for us?
Oh man, I'm so excited. Isn't it great, right? Looking on social media at the moment, on X, on, seeing all these drafts starting to happen and going away and looking and going, right, okay, well, I know what my plan was. And everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? So all of a sudden, are you pivoting? Are you looking at kind of where there's value? My head's absolutely spinning, but I'm absolutely buzzing to be here talking it through with you guys.
I feel you, man. I'm glad we have you along for the ride. This is my first ever college fantasy football league. I've been a big college fan. I've been betting the game for a while. I played some team-based college fantasy football in the past, but this is my first time ever diving into it fully. So I'm really excited that you're here to kind of walk alongside us. Also here, back with us, is a man who his heart's still down south in the great state of Florida, but he is Boston's boy, of course. He's our entertainment betting and NFL betting expert here at IBT. He's Steven Lawson. Steve, how you doing today, buddy?
I am doing great. So excited to be here. As Phil's people would say, I'm chuffed to be here. I'm super excited to talk college football. So different from what we normally do. So he's talking about the pro game. So now I get to, everyone knows I'm a homer. I love my Seminoles, but it's nice to, be able to talk about the team directly now and not their alumni.
100% agreed with you guys. As noted tonight on the show, front and center scoring and strategy breakdown, plus our favorite targets and fades for this exciting tournament known as the Tadpole Bowl Edition 1. As always, before we get going, shout out to the IBT family who's tuning in with us. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy this type of content. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new. If you want to be a part of our story as we continue to grow, we have NFL, fantasy football. We're working on some more college football content coming your guys' way. We have NASCAR, PGA, and some entertainment betting for you as well over there on Popcorn Root Beer, all right here on the IBT Media YouTube channel. Also, be sure to check out the website for some fantastic written content. And while you're on the site, consider getting a ticket to Draft Night Out. That's our live fantasy football draft at the Fantasy Football Expo in Canton, Ohio this August. If you want to come and draft with myself and 200 of our closest fantasy football enthusiast friends, this is the event for you. We'll have a shot wheel spinning. Songs will be sung. Giveaways will be going off and everything in between. The link is in the episode description. As always, Phil, we got to get you overseas here eventually, man.
Just you wait. I mean, listen, I turn 40 next year. So I'm thinking some kind of trip next summer might have to be on the cards. See if I can swing that one. I don't know how my wife will feel about me spending my 40th without her and the kids, but we'll see.
Bring them along. It's a family affair out here at Draft Night Out. And Steve, probably maybe not making it to Draft Night Out, but you will be making an appearance in Canton. We also have our golf scramble, the IBT Classic, teeing off on Friday morning. You will be present and hopefully on my team, my friend.
Yeah, no, you and Eric bullied me pretty good into coming and putting it at risk that I might miss my cousin's wedding in order to be
Boo-hoo.
there. There is a risk of my flight getting canceled and I don't get out of Ohio. Uh, so it's worth it though to come hang out and experience that in some capacity.
Yeah, sorry to pull you away from your folks doing the cha-cha slide and eating stuffed chicken. Yeah, I know how that one goes up there in the New England area. Actually, what's the wedding food up there in New England? Is it stuffed chicken? Is it like rib? Is that kind of what you're
It's
looking
the
at?
same. It's the same as
Okay,
everything. It's
okay.
the same as everywhere else. It's boring steak, chicken, and some vegetarian option.
Okay, that sounds about right. Let's go ahead though, guys. Let's jump into it here and get things kicked off with a little front and center.
Sometimes taking that first step out the door is the hardest thing to do. Give it a chance, you'll be begging for more. Save the spot just for you. We're all somewhere in between. I thought you'd come to the place where you have some fun. Ain't gotta worry about knowing not what it means. Keep you come and give me another, cause the night is young. At least I so thought.
This just in. Breaking news. Front and center.
All right, front and center. As Phil alluded to earlier, you can't go on the timeline on X right now and not see people talking about the Tadpole Bowl. So it is newsworthy. It is in the headlines. And Scott Fish Bowl, of course, is the largest fantasy football tournament in the world, hosted by Scott Fish's charity, Fantasy Cares, that raises hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity. We have a ton of content here on the channel for it. Targets and fades, a mock draft, a couple clips of our favorite handcuffs, some of our favorite sneakier targets as well. The Tadpole Bowl was created this year with the help of NBC Sports' Eric Froton as a way to help spread the game that is college fantasy football. And no, Steve is not Eric Froton. You're kind of looking like him right now, the blonde on top there. But no Eric Froton on the program, just Steve Lawson. The Tadpole Bowl, though, this will be the first year. Slow drafts will be starting on July 14th. We do have a couple of live events that already popped off, one in Las Vegas, one in Atlanta. We got 2 more live events set to come soon. The roster construction looks like this: 2 quarterbacks, not a 1 quarterback in a super flex, but 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 2 flex. That gives you 10 starters, and there's also 10 bench spots as well. Just 20 rounds of absolute awesomeness for college fantasy football. And Phil, would you like to go over some of the key scoring highlights as well, please, my friend?
Yeah, okay. So first things first, like I think in a lot of NFL leagues now, 6-point QB touchdowns are kind of a regular thing, but not so much in college football. College fantasy still tends to play with 4-point quarterback touchdowns because there are so many of them in the games most weekends. But this is a 6-point passing touchdown league, which makes us kind of high kind of pocket passing quarterbacks still really, really valuable. 20 yards per point in terms of passing, 10 yards per point for receiving yards and rushing yards, full PPR, the return touchdown 6 points, turnovers. So you've got to watch those QBs, and we'll probably mention some in the fades a little bit later on. But you've got to watch those QBs that take a lot of risk because there are 2 points for every turnover. Yeah. The nice little wrinkle, a lot of it is fairly safe, but like you said, the start 2 quarterbacks is a big thing for me. But then the other one is the return yards. Okay, so there's 0.05 points per yard. So a 100-yard return game is equal to 5 fantasy points effectively. Now, for me, that just kind of gives you an extra little wrinkle in those middle rounds in terms of how you pick him, because you can start to hunt out guys that have got return value that maybe aren't major contributors on their offense and still get flex-worthy output. So that's really something to consider.
Yeah, one more thing I would point out as well that I should have pointed out with the roster construction is that when it comes to selecting players, we're only doing P4 players in Tadpole Bowl. So all the G5 guys you love, like the Parker Navarros from Ohio, the Al J. Andersons from Buffalo, they will not be available for your selection. So Steve, it seems like to me that volume, like the regular Scott Fish Bowl, certainly king here in the college version as well.
Yeah, and that's a pretty common thread across all fantasy, right? Is you want volume, you need opportunity, because without volume, there's less opportunity, and that means there's less opportunity to score. And that's usually what we see, right? Look at the top running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends. In any fantasy league, it's the guys who get the most targets, most touches, most this. Very rarely are the, gadget players popping off. So always go after volume, but in a case like Scott Fish or Tadpole Bowl, absolutely need volume.
Yeah, and Phil, you wrote up a great preview of this tournament with some strategy and scoring breakdowns over there at inbetweenmedia.com that can be found there. And you said in rounds 1 through 5, we should really be trying to lock down a quarterback and elite volume. Does that still stand pat after seeing what a couple of the live drafts have been doing?
Yeah, so look, like I said, the key thing here is you've only got a limited pool in the kind of power 4. With only having that to kind of fish in. And you've got to start 2. And for me, I want one of those elite guys. Now, what's been really, really interesting is when you watch the early drafts, QBs are not flying off the board early. So whilst I still maintain, I'm willing now to look at what's happening and react and respond like all good players should do, and say, right, okay, well, if I can get my guy in round 2. Before I was kind of like, round 1, I want one of those top 4 quarterbacks. Well, if they're not going until the 2nd and sometimes even into the 3rd, well, depending on where I'm picking, I can probably wait until the early 2nd and still get Cade Klubnik. I think I've seen Cade Klubnik go at the 111 at his highest, but then it's been the kind of early 2nd apart from that. Well, if I can get any of those top 4 QBs in the 2nd round, again, the positional value that's going to dry up first is likely the stud running backs when you're only picking from the power 4 guys. So it would make sense, I think, with a pivot, looking at what's going on around us at the moment, to target the running back first, lock in that elite guy, get your QB round 2, and then hit back to the running back as much as possible through those first 5 rounds before it dries up, because it's going to look pretty grim after round 7 and 8.
Well, and that's such the interesting part about this Tadpole Bowl is that a lot of these G5 teams had like one elite wide receiver. Like we saw it down in the Sun Belt. It felt like every team had one guy last year who was going over 1,000 yards that would be great for this, but we're not going to be able to use those types of players. And when it comes to some of these top programs, Michigan comes to mind, Ohio State, my Penn State Nittany Lions with someone like Nicholas Singleton, and of course everyone else we have in that backfield, that I just don't think that Singleton will be worth as much when you also have, the yin and yang a punch with him there. We also have over in Ohio State, like a James People mixed with a CJ Donaldson as well. So it kind of takes down some of the value there. So it really is like, it's not always talent that we're drafting for, right? Like it's situation, it's volume, which is kind of, reminiscent to NFL fantasy football, but even kind of on a bigger scale as well. Rounds 6 through 15, you lay out here that this is where we want to build flex depth and find return value. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, what's really important here is to go away and find some guys that have got that they might not get a large kind of share of the offensive snaps necessarily. They might not see an awful lot of receiving targets, but if they are a valuable returner as well, then you're getting flex-worthy output from them. So, and they're also the guys that other people aren't going to go fishing for. They're not going to go looking for those guys. They're going to stick to your kind of wide receivers, wide receiver 2s. Dig a little deeper. Find those gems from the kind of wide receiver 3 range that don't see all the targets in the offense. They maybe see 3 or 4 targets a game, but they're reliable kick and punt returners as well, because those return yards are all going to rack up and give you flex-worthy output.
Steve, how much are you going to be placing an emphasis on return yards when it comes to the Tadpole Bowl draft? Is this something that you're certainly going to be looking at, or is it just kind of like a added like beneficiary to some of these wide receivers and running backs that will be returning kicks and punts?
Yeah, it's not something I'm actively seeking out because, like Phil said, it's every 100 yards is 5 points. So that's hard to get to. Most guys don't get to 100 yards in a game. I think we like to imagine, what if they take like 2 kicks back and then it's a bunch of it's odds are it's not happening. Most of the time, most kicks are touchbacks. So they're not touching the ball like at all. So it will play a factor a little bit. And I'll get to that later, but it's certainly not the number one thing I'm looking for in a guy. If he's mainly a kick returner and sometimes gets on the field, I don't want it.
Yeah, it was super interesting because I know at the real Scott Fish Bowl last season, Scott Fish Bowl 14, we had kick return and punt return bonuses added in, and everyone went crazy for Rashid Shaheed, and he was a great
Many.
player, not because of his return yards. He ended up not even returning kicks last season, but he
Right.
still was actually just a good play beginning of the year before he got hurt. And then on like the other side of that, I drafted Austin Eckler, not expecting him to be a return yardage merchant, and he was so great for Scott Fish Bowl last season. So it'll be kind of fun, and I think it will definitely be something to look at on the waiver wire, is to kind of find these returner types of players. To kind of round it out here, very similar to regular fantasy football as well, Phil. Round 16 through 25, you're targeting lottery tickets, handcuffs, and high variance plays. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're looking for the guy again. You might not see a great deal of volume, but he's got every opportunity to get that one shot and blow past everyone, take it to the house. There's high upside handcuffs. I'm looking for the RB2s on a team behind the bell cow back. So the bell cow back will get the volume for the majority of the season. But if they sit him in the fourth because they're up by plenty, then that kind of freshman, the second string guy is going to step in, take those touches. I'm looking for those guys late on, where there's opportunity amongst everything that's going on. You can play the kind of matchup card. Are they playing this cupcake part of their schedule where the backup guy is going to see some time and they're maybe going to spell the starter?
Yeah.
And I'm looking for the opportunity to work those guys in at the right point then.
It'll be so interesting just from a scheduling standpoint, kind of as you mentioned, like a lot of these Power 4 teams, they open up with kind of softer schedules when they get into the non-con, right? And so that will certainly be interesting to see, people come back to life. Everyone remembers Nico's like 7 touchdown crazy performance he had early in the season, and didn't finish that well for him. So I think we'll see these big games when people are playing FCF teams to open up weeks 1 through 4 or weeks 1 through 5, and then when they get into conference play, not quite as much. But let's go ahead, gentlemen. I appreciate the scoring breakdown from Phil there. Let's get into the targets and the fades, and I want to start at the quarterback position where Phil, you're taking us to the Pacific and Northwest for yours.
Yeah, man. So I'm targeting Demond Williams. It's been a very limited sample size so far. He's only started 2 games, but the impact he made in those 2 games at the back end of last season, 575 passing yards across 2 games and a combined total of 6 touchdowns. He didn't play against soft competition either. One of them was the bowl game against Louisville, and then there was also the game against Oregon. In those 2 games, he completed 83% of his passes. Like, that is just mind-blowing against teams of that quality. He's a dual threat in every sense of the word. What I really, really like is he still looks to pass first, and then can take off and run, keep drives going. He's the type of runner that, 1, he's got electric speed, but 2, he just breaks the will of defenses because he can just reset the chains by taking what he needs to get that first and just give him a fresh set of downs. He's Jed Fish's guy. He's going to start. He came across with Jed Fish when Jed Fish took the job in Washington.
Yep.
They've done everything they can to support him in the portal this offseason. I think it's wheels up. I think he's going to be absolute money for this format.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Williams. Like last year, I mean, not only was Washington kind of tasked with the burden of leaving the Pac-12, going to the Big Ten in their first season, all the traveling they have to do across country, but they're also messing with like Will Rogers at quarterback. And Steve, I mean, Will Rogers is like damn near your and I's age, right? Like the guy's getting long in the tooth a little bit for a college football quarterback. So I'm certainly high on Demond. Are you as well?
I'm always high on these former like Pac-12 kind of players. That is a high flying conference. I know he's in the Big Ten now, but when you get to play like Oregon and teams like that they're not defensive focused, right? Like he will run into some defensive minded teams this year, but this is still a spread it out, air it out kind of offense. They don't bother with defense. They're high scoring games. That's how they run. That's a great way to win your fantasy game, right? Like it's why we draft Joe Burrow high in regular fantasy, right? Because there's no defense being played. That means they're airing it out. And Demond Williams is a good runner. I don't know if he's quite an elite runner yet, but he's
right.
From what I saw, he looks like he could develop into someone that we're having real conversations about being one of the better dual threat guys in the country.
I think it's also worth pointing out, Seth, sorry to interrupt.
No.
Like, once conference play gets rolling in November, he has got 3 home games on the bounce against sides that didn't make a bowl game last year. Like that is a stretch where
Wow.
in the money phase of your season, like he's gonna get the best part of his schedule to play.
Can I guess the teams?
You can,
Northwestern.
but I need someone to fact check it.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say.
I wrote this down the other day, and then
I'm gonna say it was probably like Northwestern, Maryland, like the bottom of the Big Ten is gross. Like it really is, honestly. So I guarantee those are probably 2 of the teams that he's playing.
It's probably not great.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I will move to my favorite target at the quarterback position. Who else? But give me Haynes King of Georgia Tech. I'm all the way in on Georgia Tech this season, being an ACC dark horse after coming off back-to-back 7-6 seasons under Brent Key. They upset a top 10 ranked Miami Hurricanes team in Week 11, and they took Georgia to 8 overtimes in clean, old-fashioned hate. One of the best games of the season on, I think, what was that? It wasn't Thanksgiving. I think that was the day after. I want to say that was Black Friday there. But dual threat QB Haynes King, he took a huge step last year, passing to the tune of 72.9% completion rate. That's first in the ACC, 4th in the nation. Cut down his interceptions from ACC leading 17 in 2023 to just 2. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll throw a little bit more picks, but that's still great for Scott Fishbowl and Tadpole Bowl scoring here. He also had 125 carries for 11 touchdowns on the ground. This was all good for quarterback 9 in Tadpole Bowl points per game last season. I think we see some positive regression in passing touchdowns this year as well. He had just 14 last year compared to 27 in 2023. And I get why everyone's like a little sour on Haynes King a little bit, because he did lose wide receiver Eric Singleton Jr. to Auburn. However, he still has Jamal Haynes in the backfield. Wide receiver Malik Rutherford is out there as well. FIU transfer wide receiver Eric Rivers, who led Conference USA in receiving yards and touchdowns. He's in the mix as well. He went at the 4-9 in the Las Vegas draft that Froton posted. So I would love to grab him as a high upside QB2, maybe a low upside or low end QB1 as well. And I do think he has top 5 upside, and you're getting him right somewhere in that top 36 picks. Phil, I'm all the way in on Haynes King and Georgia Tech. I even got a little future on the 200-1 on their championship futures. I don't think they'll win the championship, but I think maybe they could contend for a playoff spot.
Yeah, man, I think that's you've called out all the key points there. The big one for me, losing Eric Singleton sucks, but what a guy to come in and step up in Eric Rivers. I think that guy is going to have a sneaky good season in that offense.
Steve, any thoughts on Haynes King? I know you're a big ACC fan.
I am a big ACC fan, and I've seen Haynes King play for a while now.
Beat your guys overseas last year.
He did. He beat them when they were over in Ireland. I was actually considering going to that game. I'm really glad I didn't. Yeah, I think Haynes King is good. I'm probably lower on him than consensus is. I think there's going to be some regression back to the mean. His interception rate plummeted, and it's very rare to see someone go from 17 interceptions to 2.
Yeah.
That seems unlikely to stay the way it is. This offense, to me, is odd. I don't know what it is about Georgia Tech, because you look back at their history, they were always a triple option school for like ever, but pumped out elite wide receivers for the NFL, and it made no sense. And this is still an offense that, like, they kind of just grind it out. They're like the Memphis Grizzlies of the mid 2000s, like or mid 2010s. Like they're literally just like, they're happy to beat you 14-7, and like it's just because like, hey, we ran out of time. And Haynes King, the best thing he has going for him is his goal line carries. That's kind of his bread and butter. But I think he's a subpar passer, and in a league where all touchdowns are 6 points, I want someone with a little bit more upside, which I think I have.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll talk about that. I'll tell you what, if I can get Haynes King in my Tadpole Bowl draft, I'm buying a jersey. I've already got it bookmarked. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to pull the trigger there. That's how much I'm in on him. Steve, you are staying in the ACC with your quarterback target. And I'm just going to say what everyone's thinking. Everyone who's listening, who's regular listener to this program, or maybe new if you're into the college fans football side specifically, a little bit of homerism going down there in Tallahassee.
Yeah, I definitely took a homer pick, but I stand by it because Here's what people don't realize. Like, I've had to watch Thomas Castellanos play Florida State for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nightmare. This man is a nightmare to try to deal with. He is impossible. You cannot tackle him. He's a little water bug. He's wicked short, right? Like that's everyone's knock on him is he's too short to play the quarterback position. He's not a great thrower. This dude flies around the field, and I think people are discounting Florida State a little too much this season. Yes, last year was a mess. It was top to bottom, messy, absolute broken team. All of our leadership left, but one thing I know about Mike Norvell is he's quick to turn things around, and it happens fast, and he knows how to get the guys he needs. Last year was I think a bit of an asterisk season. We went after more 5-star, like blue chip transfer guys than we had in the past. He went back to what works for him, is guys who fit his system. He brought in Gus Malzahn, who originally recruited Thomas Castellanos to be his quarterback. Gus Malzahn knows how to coach offenses as well or better than just about every head coach in college football, not named Lincoln Riley. So I am all in on Castellanos, and they brought in guys like Deuce Robinson, who was another guy I was considering as a target because, again, being slept on, these big-bodied wide receivers that, you know what, Florida State has a really good running game now. They brought in a ton of lineman help. I think this is going to be a year that we look at Florida State and say, man, we were way, way too quick to be putting Mike Norvell on the hot seat. This dude is coaching for everything right now. This team is playing for everything right now. These guys are bought in a way that I'm not sure we've seen out of the team in a year plus. We needed leadership. Castellanos is that guy. He's fiery. He has these guys believing they will beat Alabama week 1. I believe we'll beat Alabama week 1. And I think we're going to see I actually have a dark horse bet laid down on Castellanos to win the Heisman this year.
Well, I think you just burned some money there. Listen, like the roller coaster that is Thomas Castellanos, I can respect for what it is. I'm just not taking the ride. I'm not buying a ticket for it because, you know, you started last season on the high, right? You beat Florida State. You almost beat Missouri. You almost knocked them off. And then, like, you get some nice wins over Michigan State, WKU, but then, like, just get the absolute brakes beat off you in Virginia, you know, going to Va-Tech. And, like, I felt like that was the camel that broke, or the straw that broke the camel's back, right? And I feel like after that, Bill O'Brien didn't trust this guy.
Well,
I don't know what
hurt.
Well,
he got hurt and then lost his job to injury, which is really not like everyone wants to point to this guy and be like, he quit on BC. BC quit on him long before he quit on them. You can't like there is an understanding in college football a lot of time that you don't lose your job to injury. And he had them at what, 5-1, 4-1. I mean, this guy has done everything they asked of him. Bill O'Brien is a temperamental fella. So it's not unlike him to kind of do something like that.
Phil, where are you at here on Castellanos? Because I'm obviously on the one end where I want no part of Florida State at all in really any CFF leagues. Do you have any more love for Mike Norvell's guy?
Not after he gave us all the bulletin board material last week. Like, he's just setting himself up for a huge fail in my eyes. You know, for your sake, Steve, I hope he pulls something out of the bag for you over the course of the season. But I suppose you'd never say never. I would have to be convinced that he's the right value on the board at the time. Yeah. But for me, nah, I'm looking elsewhere.
It's a nod from me, dog. Cue the Randy Jackson gif. I am going to send it back to you, Phil, here at the running back position. Who is someone you're targeting in Tadpole Bowls?
Oh man, Trey Wisner at Texas. Like, where I've seen him get drafted, so he went 504 in the first live draft. And I followed a live mock on the Chasing the Natty pod recently, where again he kind of got 4th, 5th round value.
Okay.
And for me, the upside there is just too good. He had over 1,000 yards last season. I think it was 1,064, and he also clocked up 44 receptions and another score in the passing game. His touches increased this year with Jadon Blue moving on. I know CJ Baxter's still there. Jerry Gibson's flashed, but Baxter's coming back from injury. Look, Wisner's going to be the guy that takes the majority of the snaps to start the season. And I just feel like the big thing that he gains kind of indirectly is he benefits from the Arch Manning effect. Like, when Arch Manning is running that Texas offense, sides have got to respect his deep ball more.
Yeah.
The deep ball was just non-apparent when Quinn Ewers was running the offense, but we saw when Arch came in, the guys, particularly on play action passes, pushed the ball a good 4 or 5 yards further on average in terms of average depth of target than when Quinn Ewers was in the game. Now, what that does is it just makes you respect the kind of play action and give those opportunities in the play action run game to Wisner, because the guys are going to back off more and respect Ryan Wingo, respect DeAndre Moore on the outside. Yeah. They can't stack the box. It's going to be kind of lighter boxes, lighter defensive fronts, and gives him clearer running lanes. Like I'm kind of thinking of it at that kind of point as think about less 1 yard grinds and more 10-yard bursts. I just think it's all there for him. Manning running that offense is going to give him more red zone trips, more plays per game. It's just wheels up for me. Like, I think he's going to score very, very well. And with the draft capital he's kind of receiving at the moment, I'm probably willing to jump a little bit ahead. If he's going in the 5th, I'm willing to jump to the start of the 4th if it means me getting
wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm that high on Wisner, but I certainly like him a lot in the 5th round. Like if he's there for me, I'm willing to snatch him up, because what he showed down the stretch was just incredible. I mean, and he was a workhorse guy. I think the only 2 question marks for me, Steve, on a guy like Wisner is, one, what will the offensive line be? I mean, it's Texas. Their recruiting is great. They're bringing in 4- and 5-star guys all the time, but they did lose a ton of guys, including their left and right tackle, to the NFL draft. And in addition to that, while I think Arch Manning will open up some run lanes for him, being that mobile threat back there in the backfield with him, I'm not sure we have enough data right now to know how much he'll be checking down to the running back, something that Quinn Ewers loved to do, although Jaden Blue was seeing a healthy amount of those receptions out of the backfield.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting target because especially in the 4th and 5th round, where Phil had previously said he wants locks for these like surefire things, we're depending on Arch Manning a lot. And he, while we know his name, we don't know his game, and we don't know what that's going to look like in a Texas offense. We know Steve Sarkisian's a very good offensive coach.
We got 2 games, what 2 full games, maybe 3-ish, but Mississippi State was one of them. So I mean, take it with a grain of salt.
But we don't really know what it's going to look like. Is his average depth of target going to stay that 4 or 5 yards down the field and still be like a deep ball thing? Here's the other thing to remember, though: those deep ball passes, those guys who tend to take those long passes more often, they have more 3-and-outs. They have more drives that end quickly.
Sure.
That often means less opportunity for some of these guys. So if he does stay in that realm, I do worry that maybe the massive volume won't be there. Sarkisian's also a guy who loves to run a committee, but if they're a high explosive, high scoring offense, then it won't matter, right? Again, I think you nailed it with the concerns about the checkdowns. We don't know how Arch likes to do that. The turnover at the offensive line, I am worried about, because college football is, in the NFL, you can always find a guy. You don't know what these guys are going to be until they step on the field. There's no data for it. So I am concerned. I'd probably have him fall a little bit deeper. I like the 5th, 6th round, maybe 7th.
Okay.
But that's where I'm at.
Oh, you're not getting if you're in Phil's Alabama division, that's for sure. Let's go ahead and move forward to my running back target. It's Jonah Coleman. I'm going back to Pullman, baby. And I'm with you that I'm bought in on a bounce back season with the Huskies in their 2nd year under Jed Fish. I like Damon Williams. I think he's the real deal after messing around with Will Rogers last season. And I believe that his rushing ability will help open up some lanes for Jonah Coleman, who had over 1,000 rushing yards last season, the 8th most in the Big Ten, 10 touchdowns last season after transferring from the Arizona Wildcats. He's also a very capable wide receiver, which is going to get you some bonus points in Tadpole Bowl scoring, averaging 24 receptions, 230 receiving yards over the past 2 seasons. 4 starters should be back on this Washington offensive line. We know Denzel Boston is an absolute weapon on the outside as well. So I think that should help prevent some stacked boxes against Coleman and Williams. So he was already RB17 in Tadpole Bowl points per game last season. I think he takes a step forward this year. I think he could be a top 10 running back. He went 3-3 in Froton's Las Vegas draft. So I would love to grab him as early as the late 2nd to me. Anywhere from like 2-9 on, Coleman's going to be circled on my list there. So I am very much in on Jonah Coleman. Any thoughts on him? I imagine you're in on Coleman as well, Phil, if you're in on his quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that offense is going to be, again, another high-performing offense next year. And he fills that kind of bell cow profile that we were talking about earlier.
Steve, let's go to your favorite target at the wide receiver position. A guy who hit the portal this summer and said, "Hey, get me out of here. I'm taking my talents down to Athens."
Yeah, and listen, if there's one other mascot that I'll always cheer for, it's Uga. I love a good English bulldog. So I am a big fan. But Zachariah Branch, the speedster out of USC and now for the UGA Bulldogs, I am in on him. And I mentioned at the top of the show that I wouldn't exclusively look for returners, but if you happen to return kicks, I will count that as a plus in your favor. Now, Arian Smith is gone from Georgia. They needed a new burner. They needed a new deep threat. They found him in Zachariah Branch. He is a speedster's speedster. This dude is a dead sprinter. And I think with the way that UGA likes to run their offense, this could be a guy who maybe doesn't get you the volume you want, but I'm not here to give you the guys you're going to pick in the first 5 rounds because they're already established. They don't need my little pep talk. But guys like Zachariah Branch need a little bit of love and a little bit of recognition that he's going to be popping the top off of a lot of defenses, especially in an SEC that looks a little bit more depleted than usual this upcoming season, I think, in terms of competition.
Sure.
Including Mr. Cartledge's Crimson Tide, who don't look quite so unstoppable anymore.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when everyone gets to pay their players, everyone starts to look awfully similar.
Easy.
I do think Georgia's going to take a big step forward in the offensive game. I think last year was just a weird little aberration. No more Carson Beck, which is fine.
God.
I think they'll be okay. I think Zachariah Branch is going to be an excellent addition to this offense, just what the Bulldogs need to get back into championship form.
Phil, I can't remember. I know you wrote about Zachariah Branch this offseason. I can't remember if it was a sell or a buy, but he's certainly an interesting prospect and one that I think had a lot more hype than the production we've seen thus far in his collegiate career. But there are a lot of question marks as he transfers down there. What will Gunnar Stockton be in his first season under center, first full season, I should say, under center for the Bulldogs? And can they just plug all these holes that they've continued to lose to the NFL draft and the portal last few seasons? So what were your thoughts on Branch? Enlighten me, because I can't remember quite. I think you maybe wrote that back in January, February. So a lot's happened in the world since then.
Yeah, absolutely. So from purely a Devy context, so kind of remove the CFF lenses for a moment. I wrote that article and called him a sell. I think putting faith in Georgia's offense with so many changes makes that a real kind of risk for his profile and the kind of step up that he needs. Ultimately, they had guys of a similar mold last year and struggled to get them the ball. And, that was with a guy that Gunnar Stockton couldn't win the job of. And as much as we malign Carson Beck, he couldn't take that job from Beck. And Beck couldn't find those guys. So I don't know what faith I've got in the scheme to get Zachariah Branch the kind of targets that he needs. Then, obviously, from a Devy profile, there's the size. The size remains a concern when you look at how many guys of that size genuinely go on to make a difference. For CFF, listen, he stepped into Athens. He has absolutely tore up the spring camp and the kind of spring circuit. If you to believe what you read from the kind of beat reporters there in Athens, and he's talented. Look, we know he's talented. Like he is a CFF mismatch if he's used correctly. I suppose my biggest concern is, can he be used correctly in that offense?
Okay. Yeah. Usage will certainly be a question mark down there. And, I think the offense since Monken kind of left again, it's kind of been up in the air. So hopefully they can get their feet back under him. But Branch, a lot of upside there. And he's someone who could be on the returner list as well. So could get a couple bonus points there. For me, at the wide receiver position, it's someone that I'll absolutely be targeting in drafts here. It's Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson. And based on how these Tadpole Bowl drafts are going, I think I'm going to miss out on this top tier of wide receivers. I'm probably not going to get Jeremiah Smith unless I have the 101. Seems like he's going there, 102 every draft. I love Jordan Tyson. I think I'm as big of a Jordan Tyson fan as anyone. There is the injury concern, though, right? He is coming back from a pretty major injury. So I don't know if I want to invest a first-round pick in him. Ryan Williams, I don't know if I believe in Ty under center right away, so I'm going to miss you on there. And then Cam Coleman, love the talent, I don't know about the Auburn quarterback situation. I know Jackson Arnold's supposed to be an upgrade here. We'll see. But therefore, I would love to attach myself to my top quarterback in the nation, Cade Klubnik's wide receiver 1, which is Antonio Williams, who went off the board 208 in that Vegas draft. Klubnik was 3rd in the nation in passing touchdowns last year. I would draft Klubnik like as early as the 110, honestly, maybe earlier as well. Showed huge growth down the stretch in that ACC championship game over SMU, in that college football playoff game, maybe the best game we've ever seen him play against Texas in his homecoming debut. So that was awesome seeing. Williams is coming off a junior season where he led the team in receptions with 75, receiving yards, 904, 11 touchdowns as well. And that was the most in the ACC. He also gets a bit of a return bonus as well. He returned 17 punts last season, 164 yards. I'll be curious to see if he still continues to do that as he has ascended to this wide receiver 1 status on the team. I'm really high on Clemson this season. I got a championship future in for them, I believe, at 20-1 as well. So I think this is a team that, I mean, we saw it. I think they opened to win the ACC around like plus 350, plus 375. They're now like almost even money. So the public's with me as well. He was wide receiver 8, Antonio Williams, in Tadpole Bowl points per game last season. I think that is very much his floor given health. So would love to get the former 4-star as my wide receiver 1. Steve, are you in on Williams as well?
Yeah, because he's attached to Cade Klubnik. Sure.
Yeah.
I think Klubnik is. I don't know if I have him as my number 1 quarterback. I have a kind of a sleeper as my number 1 quarterback in Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina right now. But I do love the talent on Clemson. I love Antonio Williams. He is. You hear me talk a lot on this program about separation ability and his ability to run routes. And that is what Antonio Williams has in spades. He is a very, very crisp route runner. And Cade Klubnik is a very, very good thrower inside the numbers, where I think Antonio Williams will do a lot of damage this year. So I'm very, very, very excited about that.
Phil, is the only downside to Williams and Klubnik the fact that Clemson's defense is also projected to be so stout, specifically up front there with all the guys they're bringing back? Is that the only concern, is that maybe they just don't have to score a bunch early in the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's a distinct possibility, but you know that ultimately talent's going to win you points, and that duo are going to do enough in the opportunities they get to make them worth those kind of draft selections. I mean, I can't think of a better start around that first turn. Like if I'm gonna, you say you take Klubnik at the 110. If you can get Klubnik at the 110 and then on the way back at the 203 take Antonio Williams, how's that for a beautiful little start?
I'm ready. I'm there. Sold to the highest bidder. That's me, baby. Phil, I'm throwing it back to you here. We're going to start our fades, and you're fading a wide receiver who's on the move, also in the portal this offseason, heading down to the great state of Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am absolutely fading Kevin Concepcion. Again, when you look at I think he went to 509 in that first Vegas live draft. Listen, he had an outstanding freshman year and really kind of jumped onto the scene. 839 yards, 10 touchdowns. But then last season, things started to go wrong. And I think there was so many worries, like 460 yards, 6 touchdowns, so almost half the production. And that regression for me kind of raises massive red flags. Like, was it situational, QB driven? Like, because when you actually look at the drops, he had a ridiculously high drop rating last year. Led the team in drops with 7, struggled to separate. He had 3 fumbles, 62% reception percentage on catchable passes. Like, that's not a guy I want to invest in at any level. I own some Devy shares, which I'm desperately trying to get rid of while the name value still holds. Like I said, he's moving across to Texas A&M, who was screaming out for a wide receiver. But inconsistent hands don't mix well with SEC DBs. He to me seems like someone who is going to be giving that ball away. Couple that with, I know he played well when he came in at the back end of the season, but it's going to be Marcel Reed's first year as starting QB. He's shown flashes, but really kind of remains inconsistent. Look, for me, he offers you, Concepcion does offer you the athleticism, the yak ability, but it comes with considerable risk. And where I've seen him drafted so far, I'm certainly not willing to pay that price.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like the talent of Concepcion, and I love this entire Texas A&M program, what they're building under Elko, man. Like Kyle Field, just historical place, right? I mean, this is somewhere I would die to go to a game there. Probably can never go because the tickets there are absolutely jacked up every single time. But yeah, I have the same concerns, man. Marcel Reed, dynamic athlete, better passer than I think people give credit for, but still a young player. And another guy, I think they kind of delayed the development when they're just kind of hanging out there and seeing what their veteran had last season. So I'm with you in fading Kevin Concepcion. Steve, I will fight you on this one, though, because you are fading one of my other favorite players here back in Georgia Tech. Man, Georgia Tech getting a lot of airtime on this particular program today. But you're fading their running back, Jamal Haynes. Is it just because that he's probably not going to see much more than 200 carries and going to get sniped at the goal line by Haynes King? Is that the fade here?
Yeah, it's just opportunity not being there. He's being drafted pretty high. And I don't love, like I said, I think Georgia Tech's going to return to earth a bit. This is not a team that's loaded with talent. Haynes King, I think if he takes a step back like I expect, that means Jamal Haynes is also taking a step back with him, because as Haynes King goes, so does Georgia Tech's offense. And if he's not going to crack 200 carries, I mean, this guy has struggled to break 2,000 yards over the last 2 seasons total. He's not an elite runner. He's not an elite speedster. He's not an elite wide receiver. There's nothing elite about him. And I think the ACC is going to be better than people expect this year. It's going to be a more competitive conference. Florida State, Clemson, Miami are pretty good programs. Georgia Tech could have a pretty good defense this year. I don't love the idea of Jamal Haynes as like one of my primary guys I'm relying on in this Tadpole Bowl.
Real quick, would you rather just give me the name here, both of you guys, Trey Wisner or Haynes?
Wisner.
Yeah.
Nate
Same.
Frazier of Georgia.
Frazier.
Yeah, Frazier.
Okay. Let's Justice Haynes now in Michigan.
I'll take that. I like
Nah.
the Michigan run game.
At that point, give me Haynes.
Okay.
Jamal Haynes.
Okay. Oh yeah. I guess we have 2 Haynes there. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think there's a chance I might end up with a Haynes King and Jamal Haynes stack, just because I think maybe consensus is a little bit lower on him. But Steve, I think your points are very, very valid there. I'm going to throw it back to you, Phil, for your second fade, a guy that it seems like we're kind of a consensus fade here on the program, as Steve is hand holding with you, a little squad ride on the Oklahoma's new trigger man.
Yeah, so look, first things first, I like John Mateer. If there is a guy you want to watch on Saturday, so if there's anybody watching,
so fun.
If there's anybody that's tuned into this and are watching, expecting us to be talking NFL ball, and whoa, they're talking college, go watch John Mateer. It's a ride. It's an absolute roller coaster. You'll love it. But what I don't want right now is he's such a wild card with such a wide variety of potential outcomes when you consider him stepping up to the SEC and stepping up to Oklahoma, that I don't want to pay that capital for what's going to end up being my QB1 for a guy who is absolute feast or famine. I just want safer players there. That step up from the group of 5 to the SEC level, coupled with his bad traits, frightens me. He took 14 sacks last year, second highest pressure percentage. Mm-hmm. He threw 6 interceptions on deep balls. It's boom or bust. He's going to win you weeks, but I think the most worrying thing in this format is he is quite capable to lose you weeks. So he went 304 straight after Jonah Coleman in the Vegas draft, and that for me is just too high given the potential liability.
Yeah, Steve, I love John Mateer too, and we know this is a guy who was really high in points per game last season in Tadpole Bowl scoring. But I mean, the issue Phil pointed out, man, there are some huge games last year. The schedule is much softer when he was playing up there in the Pac-2, I guess we were calling it. But now it just feels like, well, I do expect Oklahoma to be better. It's a really tough schedule for these guys, one of the toughest in the entire SEC, if not the country. And he's going to have his hands full because we don't know what the wide receiver position is going to be like after all of them got hurt last year.
Yeah, so he's playing with the big boys now, right? Like it's just the way it is, and that's not disrespect to what he had played with before. It's just the fact of the matter. The SEC still, I mean, I can kind of dog on them as much as I want, but they are still like the prominent conference when you think of NFL level talent. John Mateer last year had 7 interceptions. He had 18 turnover worthy plays.
Oh, wow.
So the problem is maybe in the Pac 10 or 12
Two.
that
Two.
yeah, the Pac 2 that didn't materialize in interceptions. In the SEC they will. Right? That's just the bottom line. You don't get away with as much. So even if say a few more go his way, you know what I mean? Like we're talking about negative 2 points for every turnover. This is a guy who does fumble the ball. He puts the ball on the ground. He throws the ball into windows he shouldn't. He is very fun to watch. Very fun to watch. But fun to watch doesn't get you points.
Yeah, I'm totally with you there, man. I like John Mateer. He's someone maybe in different scoring format I would take a look at, but the price is just too high to pay. I don't need to add. We're running short on time. I don't need to add any analysis really, but I'm fading Carson Beck. I think people are thinking that he's gonna, get the same Cam Ward jump that Cam Ward got when he was coming from Wazoo. I don't think it's happening. They lost a ton. Damian Martinez out of the backfield, Elijah Arroyo. Their top 4 wide receivers, including Xavier Restrepo, are gone. I've heard nothing good from people who have played with Carson Beck, from people who have been around Carson Beck. QB 20 last year in points per game in the scoring. I think maybe we see it worse. I think if they, lose to potentially Notre Dame early, if Florida can get them early, they're 2-2 by October. Beck could be quitting on the team. So that's going to be it for us here on the In Between Fans Football podcast. Make sure you guys are checking out all Phil and Steve's awesome content at inbetweenmedia.com. Make sure you're checking out all the great work we're doing here on the YouTube side of things as well. We got fantasy football, NFL content for you, college football betting content, also some NASCAR, PGA, and entertainment betting for you as well. Good luck to you in the Tadpole Bowl scoring or in the league this year. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you're new. We'll catch you guys next time. Until then, keep it in between. Thank you.